I'm guessing you clicked on this video because you're thinking about going back to school at some point in the future. By that, I mean specifically going back to school to enhance your career prospects. At 31, I decided to get my MBA for a couple of what now seem like weird reasons. I did it part-time, so it was an interesting 5 years, working during the day, going to school at night. If you've been thinking about upgrading your qualifications, hearing about my experience might be helpful to you. Hey, I'm Don. I started 60 Someday for young guys in their teens, 20s, and 30s who are making long-term decisions about work, education, and overall direction. As a 64-year-old man, I see how the life I live now is the product of 1,000 different decisions I made along the way. I'm here for one reason only, and that's to share my experiences in a way that might help you with yours. I'm not here to give you my 5-point plan for achieving maximum success, because I don't actually believe in 5-point plans. And I definitely don't believe in maximum success. What would that even be? In this video, I'm going to walk you through 3 real aspects of doing an MBA or any kind of post-secondary education based on my personal experience. So first, we're going to talk about the relationships with the professors and the students you meet. Secondly, we're going to talk about credibility, the effect of this achievement on the people around you, but also just on how you view yourself. And third, knowledge. How much smarter, how much more capable are you when you finished as opposed to when you began? By the end of this video, you might approach the decision about whether or not to further your education a little differently. I'm not actually saying that you should or that you shouldn't go back to school. I think some of my observations might surprise you, actually. To start, I want to talk about my reasons for getting an MBA. As I mentioned, I had 2 weird motivations, so let me spell them out. First of all, in the company where I worked, an MBA was rare. Like if you work for a bank, you can't throw a rock in the office without hitting a couple of MBAs. But in my company, which was a transportation company, I think there were 4 people. There was a guy in marketing, there were 2 VPs, and a CEO. So I saw that if I got this credential, I'd be instantly elevating myself, at least in terms of qualification, if not in terms of actual expertise. The second reason was that I hate being pigeonholed. That's just me. Maybe I have to feel special. I completed a really artsy undergraduate degree in English and philosophy, and I wanted to prove to myself that I could also do something career-oriented. It would be something I had no real aptitude for, but it would make me a more well-rounded person. Okay, let's talk about the first benefit you can expect to receive going back to school, and that is the relationships you'll develop either with the professors or with your fellow students. So networking is a big deal in the business world, and that's really what we're talking about here. Now, for me, I would say I didn't do a good job of that. I had so many things going on. I was married, I was a father, I was growing a business in my 9 to 5, and then I was going to school kind of exhausted at the end of the day. The idea of making friends and investing in relationships just seemed like too much. But I did actually gain a lifelong friend from the experience. And more importantly, I met the guy who financed my first company in the MBA program. So when we talk about relationships, that one thing, that chance conversation that led to the funding of my company could only have happened in the MBA program. It was worth the price of the entire tuition just for that alone. The second thing I want to talk about is it changes how you are viewed by other people. So it's not dramatic. So I now had an MBA and I would go into meetings. I didn't put it on my business card like a loser, but occasionally it would come up in conversation that the individual had gone to school for a master's degree in business. And hey, guess what? I did too. And we would have 20 seconds of conversation about what that was like, and then we would move on. But I think I sometimes established myself as a little more credible in the eyes of that person. And then I also changed how I viewed myself. So I met this challenge. I was an art and sports guy in school. I was not the one voted most likely to succeed in business. So it was actually very satisfying for me to find out that I could go to school for something I thought I had no aptitude for and actually do well enough to get the degree. So that was worth it. Not the kind of thing that you can show to other people, but what it says to you about yourself, I think, is important. The third advantage I want to talk about is the thing you're actually there for, which is to learn. So we think of school as being this transfer of knowledge from the professor's brain into your brain. But in my experience, it doesn't work that way. I mean, partly for me, it was a problem because I was so busy. I was a husband, I was a father, I was building this business during the daytime and then coming to school somewhat exhausted at night. So I actually came up with an approach called the B plus max approach. What is that? I needed a B plus to stay in the program. But if I got an A minus, or heaven forbid, an A on an assignment, I knew that I had spent too much time at school and I needed to pull it back. So if I got too far from the B plus, I was actually shifting priorities from what was important to what was less important. So I remember I gave that speech to an incoming group of students at my MBA school one time, and they never invited me back to give a speech again. But it worked for me. But the other aspect is that school is really about something different than merely transferring information from the professor's brain to your brain. You're learning a mindset, you're learning an attitude towards information. You're getting a new vocabulary to think about your experiences and to talk about them. But you may learn more from other people than you learn going to school. But I did feel that it was worth it in the end for me to have that educational experience, even just for the vocabulary that allowed me to think of my experience in different ways. So I think the big question in any situation like this is, would I do it again? And I would say, yes, I would definitely do the MBA again, but mainly for the personal satisfaction reason and the confidence that came with the accomplishment. For all the talk about the value of education, no one actually seems to care about your credential in the real world. I have friends with high school and community college educations who make more money than me, like way more money. Why? Because they're actually really good at what they do. Talent generally wins in the workplace. I know not all the time, but generally that's how it goes. So as I said, I don't want to tell you what the right answer is, that you should go back to school or shouldn't. It's such a highly individual decision. And both options can be great options and the right one for you. I guess the thing is to think about it in a way that you set aside the prejudices, the messages that you're hearing from other people, and do it for reasons that make sense for you. Anyway, thanks for listening to me today. I really appreciate you spending this time with me. Thank you.